Charlton Athletic, good afternoon.
Richard, you were a very successful businessman before you became chairman of Charlton. What attracted you to a club with such a troubled recent history?
Being a supporter. Charlton were my club, and so when I had the opportunity to get involved, I couldn't resist it.
So it was really passion for football and passion for Charlton?
I think, yeah, I've always been a football fan, but especially a Charlton fan, and there was a great opportunity because there was turmoil at Charlton at the time, and somebody had to get involved and sort it out.
So what were some of the challenges you had to face when you came to
A little
Charlton?
bit of history is in 1985, the previous board of directors sold the ground for property development, and Charlton ended up playing at Crystal Palace's ground. I got involved in 1991 as a director and a small shareholder with one of my colleagues, Martin Simons, and once we put the money in, we realised what a mess Charlton was in, and it's one of those stories which, you know, your first investment in football from sort of serious businessmen is very often a flawed one, and you know, we did a few things wrong at that stage. But we got to know the real problems of Charlton, and that was that 50% of the shares were owned by Hill Samuel Bank because the previous owner had gone bankrupt. Once I got involved with Hill Samuel, I realised what a problem we had. We had to get the shares back, we had to somehow buy the ground back, and then we had to redevelop the stadium, and all those things were quite a daunting task. But the first job was to sort out the bank, because they wanted a lot of money for the shares. I obviously didn't want to pay too much money for the shares, and we had this game of poker which the bank always said to me as I left the room, ranting and raving, was, "You won't let it go bust because you like the club too much." And that was, you know, a
So
pretty
was that
strong hand they
That
were
was your
playing.
Achilles heel, was it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So they knew they got you? And,
Yes. But I think what has made Charlton, and one of the reasons I wanted to get involved, was we had the fans who were trying to get the club back, and there were many things they did on a political front which enabled us to get back to the Valley.
That was the setting up their own party?
They set
was
up
it
their
something?
own political party. They won a lot of votes in the area, and they were able to stop the planning permission go ahead to allow this to become a housing development. That allowed the land to be devalued, and myself and the rest of the board managed to buy the freehold back for £1 million. And for the interim 18 months we played at West Ham's ground.
Right.
They kindly rented their ground, and we ended up coming back here in December 1992, which was, you know, an absolute wonderful occasion, albeit we only had a stadium which could hold just over 8,000 people. I think my skills, or the skills I'd built up during my business career, were just right for Charlton at that time, because we were in a mess. We had no ground, very little support, no money, and we were in trouble. And we've managed to turn it round with a lot of help from everybody, whether that be fans, fellow board members and staff. But I do think I had skills of starting a new business, and this was a new business as far as I was concerned. Charlton, you know, was reborn in December 1992, and I think if you look round now, this is the rewards of 10 very good years.
Would you say you have a set of values that you all share as members of the team?
Yes, I do. And actually the first one is integrity. I think values are very important in business, and especially in football, and I think we are known as a club with integrity. The way we look after our footballers, if they get injured, we tend to look after them until they're fit again.
Would you say you have a shared purpose as a team? Is that another thing that's bound you together?
As a football club and a business, I feel we do all share a purpose at this club, and this includes the players. In many clubs the players are very separate, but we do tend to involve our players in the whole club. In fact, just on Monday night they were here signing shirts for our fans. We did a special promotion on shirts, and every one of them came and devoted their Monday night to signing shirts. And I think partly due to the stability at the club, the fact that Alan's been here a long time and has a great affinity to the club, that he says it's more than a football club. You know, this is a family, and we've all got to pull together. And I think in some ways, being the size of club we are, without the superstars which obviously play at some other Premiership clubs, I think that's helped that family atmosphere. We do like to think we're a community club. Part of it is this low-cost seating. I think it's essential that a community does have a local football club, and that you have a price range which can appeal to, you know, maybe even the unemployed, right through to the people who've been very successful. We've raised between the board and fans over the last 10 years, over £20 million of equity. So that's what's paid for this stadium we're standing in now. Mr. Fayed has said recently that it's his club, he's going to keep it for the rest of his life and then hand it over to his children. I don't think a football club is a product like that. I think a football club is owned by the community. I feel very strongly that we are just holding the relay baton at the moment, and we will pass it on to somebody else. Now, I hope that the money I've invested I'll get back, but I'm not looking to make a lot of money out of Charlton, because it's given me huge success. It's given all the people who watch here a great deal of enjoyment, and it's important it's there in 100 years' time. So I think that's one of the sad things in football. I think football historically has been run in that way, but so many clubs now are what I call proper PLCs, or they're run by one-man individuals who see it as just a personal possession. One of the most important jobs of football club boards and managers is to manage the aspiration of fans, because football has been built up so much by the media that it's so black and white. They try and make it, it's either win or lose, but as we know, there's got to be a loser each match. And I must admit, something I regret is when my dad used to take me to football, it was more, well, we'll go and see Tottenham or West Ham or whoever because it would be a good match. And people don't say it'll be a good match anymore. It's got to be, we've got to win. It's a must-win game. So that's added a new dimension to football, which, thank God, I think we're safe this year. And I have to say that is our first aspiration.
Al Fayed has said that he wants Fulham to become the Manchester United of the South. Do you have a similarly bold ambition for Charlton?
Yeah, Mr. Fayed has pumped a lot of money into Fulham, and I know he has very high ambitions of taking on Manchester United. I don't think he's ever going to be able to do that, because I think there is a global brand now at a club like Manchester United which just can't be caught up with. As far as Charlton's are concerned, the one thing we don't do is make any false promises, because I want to be here for a long time. I've been here for a long time to now, and I hope to be here for many years to come, and I think they always come back and bite you. And we say consistently, and have said, that we wanted to get into the Premiership. Now we're in the Premiership, we want to establish ourselves in the Premiership. I believe the top 4 or 5 clubs are really in a different league of their own, but I do feel after those 5, then Charlton has got a chance of doing well. But I think it's so easy to make big promises at football clubs because of the emotional nature of it, and that is something Charlton has never been caught up in, and I think that probably has been one of the reasons for our success, that people can't say that you said you'd be so and so.
I heard it said recently that successful businessmen leave their brains behind when they walk into a football club boardroom.
Yes.
What is it about managing a football club that produces such an emotional response?
First of all, I did it once. That was my first investment. I have to admit, the head went straight out the window. But I think the main reason it does is because of the emotion involved. I've been used to running businesses for 20 or 30 years now, and if something goes wrong, you might get a phone call from the bank manager, a polite phone call, would you like to meet me in my office? Or if you're a public company, you know that you have an annual general meeting once a year. And I have, in fact, once said at a public annual general meeting, well, if you don't like the way we're running the company, why don't you sell your shares? Which got a ripple from the audience. However, at football it's different, because fans can't go and support another team. They support Charlton, and they hold you responsible for making Charlton a success, and they don't want failure.
How do you feel when the team's playing well?
I think one of the differences with being involved with football as opposed to other businesses is there's usually an extra dimension. I remember in the early 90s being here, there were days where you'd have a great match, and as a fan you'd have been able to drive home saying, that was good, how are we going to do next week? Whereas I'd have to drive home thinking, but we've got to sell our best player next week because we can't pay the wages the week after. So that gave sort of a real realistic balance to one's fans' feelings. Alan has been key to this football club. Stability of the manager in a football club is almost essential, because the cost of change is enormous. If a new manager comes in, he'll want a new coach, a new assistant, and then a new half-dozen players. And you're not even sure if you've got the right man, and yet you're having to back him to that extent. So I'm a huge believer in business generally, that if you've got the right person, hang on to them with dear life. And I think that's whether it's a secretary or a managing director or a football manager, if you've got somebody good, keep them, because I think that's how you build something strong. And Alan, I have to say, I think is a good coach. I think he's a good judge of a player. And probably one of the most important things which appeals to me, especially in football, is that he's got integrity. And I'm afraid that can't be said of everybody. And I think he, is part of this Charlton culture, which I like to think we've all got integrity, and he's just a great ambassador for us. We had this agreement that the board would finance the stadium over the next 10 years, and he had to just try and build a team with no funds, which is a major job, but at least he didn't have to build a stadium.
Challenge that he's risen to with...
He has risen to. In fact, last 2 years he's had funds, but for the first 8 he didn't.
Efforts at Charlton over the years haven't gone unnoticed. He's been linked with a job in the England setup, maybe as under-21 coach. Now, Stewart's cross, and it's in this time from Bartlett. He has done it. Charlton are really giving it a go against the champions. Now has seen Carney off his line, he's gone for it! Oh, it hit the bar, but Solskjaer puts the rebound in! Absolutely unbelievable! Totally incredible! But that's a fine cross from him, and it's in from Bartlett! He's got his second of the game, and Charlton have set up a rousing finale at the Valley! They just refuse to lay down. Fantastic finish to a quite extraordinary game. Jensen's corner. Kinsella. And it's in! Robinson! John Robinson scores! What a comeback from Charlton! The Valley erupts! Sir Alex Ferguson can barely believe it, and it's Charlton 3, Manchester United 3 in one of the games of the season in the Premiership.
So what keeps you going as chairman when things get difficult?
At the end of the day, it's the good fans. I mean, why I really have put a huge amount of time and effort and money into this club is I think the support. When I first became a director and went to a number of the meetings, I couldn't believe the way some of our previous directors, people like Mike Norris, just treated the fans as, look, this is the decision, these are the prices, take it or leave it. And if you don't want to come, we'll fill the ground with somebody else. I felt that was all wrong. I thought that's not how you've got to run a football club. The fans afterwards came up to me and said, Richard, you've got to help save this club. And you could realise just the passion of these people, the fact that football to them was the be-all and end-all. And yeah, I like to think that Charlton is my personal mission in life. And I try, why I'm still involved in other businesses is I try and make money in other businesses so that I've got some to spend at Charlton, because whether we like it or not, if you're not a top 6 club, it's very difficult to make money out of football. So I think it's far better to make your money elsewhere and say, let's enjoy football and do it for other reasons.
Oh, they've scored! Out of nothing, Brown appeared on the end of the free kick, and Charlton, against all the odds, are level. Brown, the goal scorer, near the penalty spot. It's gone in towards Ewell this time. Well, this is the most amazing game I think I've seen all season. Against all the odds, Charlton find themselves in front. And a bit of pressure here from Johansson, and it comes to Jensen, who's tried to chip the keeper and has done so and found the net. And astonishingly, Charlton are 3-1 in front.
Well, there's been some bizarre goals here this afternoon, but that was absolutely brilliant. Really was from Klaus Jensen. For that here this afternoon.
Arsenal humbled at Highbury. The national press is magnanimous in their praise. Charlton Athletic had provided one of the biggest upsets in Premiership history.
10 years ago, you had a dream to be part of a football club that stood for something, and one which its supporters could be proud of. Now that you've fulfilled your dream, what's your new dream and how will you stay motivated to pursue it?
We did set ourselves a dream 10 years ago, and that was to be a Premiership football club and to have a big stadium, lots of fans with a great atmosphere. And as I said in our chairman's statement, you know, that has happened, and I think you can look round and I can look round with a lot of pride that we've delivered. However, I have to say 10 years ago it was only a dream, it wasn't a plan. The plan was just to stay in business, because we were in such danger of falling out of business. We just felt if we can keep Charlton going, then we've done our bit for the local community. I think now we've had those 10 years and we've got this far, you know, we've got to have our plan for the next 3 years, but I think we've also got to have our dream, because dreams are what, you know, turn you on. And our dream, or my dream, is to make sure this club, outside of the top 5, is top of that division. And that means that we will regularly be a top 10 football club. And if you consider that the Premiership is the best league in the world, I like to think that it's making Charlton one of the best 10 teams in the world.
Thanks very much.
Good, thank you, Annette.